and welcome into episode 21 of the Orlando Drummer Podcast. We got some beers going. We're turning 21 today, huh? 11 a.m. Good time as any, you know what I'm saying?
That's right. Cheers, sir.
Cheers, sir.
Boom, bop. Off-camera cheers.
Off-camera cheers, yeah. Awesome. How you been, Chris?
Been all right. Doing good now.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It should be a fun one. I'm excited to do Swap Study Shed again. I love that segment.
Oh, yeah. We got 2 rounds coming up today.
Awesome. That's so fun. We're going to run into some really hilarious versions of that.
I hope segment. So. I'll change round 2 to make it real funny. Okay.
All right.
But before we get to that, we're going to start off with a loop of the week.
Okay. What do we got? Loop of the week.
We got some funky, synthy, fun stuff this week.
Okay.
Looking at Neo Soul V1. Loop 5.
Neo Soul. Yeah, dude, that's a really fun pack for sure. Kind of challenging because it's the most drunk drumming, right? Like, pun intended as we crack beers. It's definitely one of the few packs you can get away with some of that weird, like, time manipulation stuff. Is a lot of fun for sure. And Joe wrote almost all of those. I helped with a handful of the like synth melodies maybe, or some of the shakers to make sure that the feeling was right throughout them. But those are a lot of fun. Really, really cool. I would put that, one of the Neo Soul packs, I would put it in my probably top 5 loop packs, I think. Just really, really fun. Good melodies. So yeah, let's let him hear it. This is Neo Soul, what do you say, Volume 1, Loop 5?
That's correct.
Cool, check it out. Yeah, a lot of fun, man. They're really, I don't know, just really groovy. Like a good example of a pack that you don't chop over. I don't know, like the trap ones for me always feel like you're supposed to chop. Maybe I just watch too much Luke Holland, but it just feels like these are like, it's really the tempos. Like trap is so slow, like 70, 80 BPM just feels like you should shred a little bit. But the Neo Souls are just like a little more pocket oriented. So yeah, if you're looking for a loop pack or any drumless tracks that you can just lay back and groove, Neo Soul is definitely a good choice. And remember, you can stream all 300 plus loops in the Orlando Drummer Library. It's one of the largest libraries, if not the largest library of drumless tracks in the world. You can stream all of them online or offline via a membership to orlandodrummer.com. And remember, we have ODTV apps for our members, iOS and Android. You can access the entire drumless loop library. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the 170 hours of content that's available on the site, ranging from audio and video masterclasses, social media masterclasses, a lot of stuff for content creators, and then of course, deep dives into rudiments, groove concepts, multiple fill lesson packs, you name it. I promise we'll have something that you will like. Use code ODPC and you can save 25% on your first 2 months. And there's our one and only sponsor of the Orlando Drummer Podcast.
I'm curious to know what other lessons you can do in the future. I mean, if you can think of it, it's probably there, but what can you think of that's not there that you'd like there?
It's tough, man. It's really tough. You know, songs are the next thing, like breaking down. And I've done 4. I've done 4, what I call them, song study lesson packs, where you basically take a song that I've written the parts to. I don't teach other people's songs because selling that is ethically a little weird. But, songs that I've played or performed on, like Minor performance videos, I'll break those down from start to finish, like every note of the entire song. And I've done 4 of those. And there are, I think, 2 other songs, Dead Hero and Wet Texan, which I've wanted to do full breakdowns for those. So that's probably the next thing I have lined up to do for OrlandoDrummer.com. But beyond that, man, a lot of it is like, it's weird, man. Drums are so, the math doesn't change. So a 6-stroke roll has been the same ever since somebody thought it up. Right? Like it doesn't really change. So in theory, a well done 6-stroke roll lesson from 100 years ago should still hold up just fine right now. But it's more so keeping up to date with the audio and video quality, because obviously that just gets better, over time. So for me, a lot of it is like circling back and tightening up lessons that I've done. There's definitely been a few full lesson packs that I've re-recorded. Hand speed, foot speed, boot camps. Those have both been totally reshot where like I made them, and then after a while I was like, yeah, the floor tom's clipping in that lesson, so I had to redo it. Drum set control boot camp as well, and a few master classes. So that's kind of where I'm at, but that's more of like a me and my career sort of thing. I've been making lessons for 10 years, but to be honest, I think all the fundamentals are covered. I don't know what basic thing someone would want to learn or fundamental thing they'd want to learn that isn't already on the site. Probably jazz.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, but if you want to learn jazz, you don't want to study with me, right?
No.
You want to go to a jazz player, a purist, somebody that really does that.
Yeah.
Yeah, or double bass. That's the other one. I can play double bass, but it's been so long, I would have to like relearn a whole bunch of things and then reteach it. And
it's like a different style of fighting. It's like, I'm not used to using that part of my body primarily.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's very much like that, yeah. And I know I can because I had 26 Let Live songs down, which all of them had double bass. So it's like, I've done it before. I've gone down that wormhole and figured out a whole lot of stuff, but I didn't learn it. I started with songs, which is always weird because you learn the parts of the song and it's not like you're doing exercises to like you're not doing permutations to free up your feet. You just learn what the specific song, like part in the song was. So I'd have to do a lot of unpacking if I ever wanted to teach double bass. Go way, way back to the beginning and start over. And and then I'm not really a metal guy. So it's like, do people want to learn metal from me? You should probably go talk to a guy that's done this his whole career exclusively. That's the guy to learn metal from,
Maybe, but I mean, couldn't you say that you'd be the stepping stone in that if you were to do double bass lessons? You would at least,
could, but it's that Carl Jung thing. It's like the unearned wisdom. Like, I don't want to pretend like I really like live this kind of, or you know what I mean? Like, it's not really mine just because I could teach it. It's a fine line there, right? Of like what you can claim to have a right to in the drum industry. There's some things I feel really comfortable teaching because I've played it for so many years. I know this stuff inside and out. Metal and jazz are like on the line there. It's like I could teach some stuff, but I don't want to like pretend that I'm the guy for that necessarily. So yeah, but I think songs are next. Dead Hero and Wet Texan. If you guys haven't heard those songs, they're Mono Performance videos. I'm going to break down those next.
Cool.
They're tricky, very tricky.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for the insight.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the newest and most exciting segment that we have on the podcast. Swap, Study, Shed.
Swap, Study, Shed.
That's
right.
So
fun.
Yeah, for this,
Yep, that's it.
I'll give Adam 3 drummers that he has to choose which one he would swap gigs with, take a lesson from, or hang out and shed with.
Yeah.
So, like another game that's also 3 words, but I'm not going to say it on the podcast.
You get it.
You get it. All right, first round. Thomas Lang.
Okay.
Annika Niles. And Buddy Rich.
That's hard because technically they're all so good. Like, you want a lesson with all of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you'd want to shed with all of them too. Who would destroy you the hardest of those 3?
Buddy.
You think Buddy? I was going to go Lang. Yeah, because Buddy, like, he was just such a specialist. I mean, if it's a jazz shed, like, everybody in the world is dead. But if you know, Thomas Lang could play double bass, right? He's got like that metal influence. So I think I would do, because of like the time factor, like the era that Buddy was so well known in, I think I would swap with him. I want to play like a crazy jazz gig, on...
You want to throw cymbals at people and yell at people on a bus.
Yeah, yell at people and freak out on everybody. Yeah. Well, didn't he... I'm sure he played... like Johnny Carson, like some of those super famous kind of shows, like that sort of thing. Like, that's an experience that nobody gets to have anymore. It's gone, right? Like, those shows, well, they're just not what they used to be. So that would be really cool to play back then, like to go back to the 50s, 60s and play a jazz gig. So I would swap gigs with Buddy Rich. That would be really fun. And then do I want to hang out with, like, just shed and jam and hang out with Annika or with Thomas Lang? I think I'm gonna go Lang. I think I want to hang out in shed with him and then take the lesson with Annika.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I think Annika's in that like the Greb Yost bloodline of stuff. Bloodline. Such a weird way to say it.
Stick line.
It's stick line. Yeah, she's down the stick line of them. Those German phenomenons, right? That would be really cool. And she's also, I consider her a specialist, like with quintuplets, septuplets. Like she's a real nerd for that sort of stuff. So I think she would have some more, I don't know, just interesting like abstract concepts to share. And I've always gotten the impression, the impression that Thomas Lang is very cool.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think I've ever. Yeah, the German. Yeah. I don't think I've met him before. If I have, it's like in passing, like a, hey, how you doing? But I've always gotten the impression that he's a really cool guy. I know Luke did that big tour with him, with Roland, and that they're good buddies. So yeah, I think that's what I would do. I'd probably want to hang out in shed with Thomas Lang. I'll take a lesson from Annika. That'd be very interesting. And I'm swapping with Buddy Rich. I want that old jazz gig.
Sweet.
Yeah. What do you think? What would you do?
I would shed with Annika, swap with Buddy, and study under Thomas Lang.
Study under Lang. Yeah, that's a tough one. Like studying with Lang, it's not like he wouldn't have something to show you. That guy could fuck you up for 20 years.
He give you a fundamental lesson that'll screw with your entire process. You'd be like, no, try this instead. And then you'd be like, I don't.
Yeah.
It's all alien.
He's such an obvious studier too, right? Like you hear him play, it's so obvious that the guy just spends a lot of time with his head in a book, right? Or just, I don't know, really, really like investing in the craft. It's you don't get that good unless you do that kind of stuff. So yeah, it'd be fun to take a lesson with him.
That'd be cool. All right, round 2. A little different here. Eric and Proda, Stewart Copeland, Matt Garska. Garska.
Man, what's Stewart Copeland's gig?
The Police.
The Police. Oh my God. Well, that's the obvious swap. Yeah. I mean, I guess Eric and Matt both play in really cool bands, right? I mean, what do you have, like Fever or Night Verses? So like really fun, aggressive rock metal. By the way, Eric, I haven't even talked to him about this yet. He's coming with the Fever, opening for Slipknot and Killswitch Engage in Tampa.
God.
And I haven't even talked to him, but I'm going to that show. So I hope he gets me in, but I'm buying a ticket either way because that sounds like a really good time.
Yeah.
So that's coming. That'll be cool.
Is that for the music festival in Tampa, or just
I think it's just a show at an arena.
It's just one show.
Just one show. I think so. Yeah. Kelly sent me the flyer. I can't remember. But yeah, Slipknot and Killswitch, man, like 14-year-old me is in heaven. So yeah, I think I would have to take Stewart Copeland. How do you turn on a gig with the Police? And it's not like playing with animals as leaders wouldn't be cool, but I would be highly skeptical of my technical ability to play that gig. I'm going to need a few months to work some things out. So yeah, playing with the Police though, oh my God, how fun would that be? And let's see. I think I would want to take the lesson with Garska. How could you turn that down? I mean, just such a conceptual drum nerd. I'd have to do that. And then I would hang out with Eric because we've hung out in shed plenty of times, but I would have to do that with him. Eric's a really, really good hang for as cool of a drummer as he is. He's also a really, really cool person. I would definitely hang out with Eric even if we didn't have drums in common, which we do. But yeah, I think that's what I do. That's kind of an easy one for sure because how do you turn down swapping gigs with Stewart Copeland if he's playing with the Police? How fun would that be? And arenas, of course, right?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I might switch with Matt.
With Matt?
Yeah.
How many years do you need to play one Animals as Leaders song?
7 goddamn years. Any sort of, but I mean, I've been listening to Animals as Leaders for so long.
Yeah, so you would know the song at least.
Longer than the Police, like even though they've been around longer, it's just like I've loved Animals as Leaders for years.
Yeah. It's just insanely technical music, man. It's the kind of music I've never learned an Animals as Leaders song because I never wanted to die. But if you wanted to, can't you imagine spending like a whole weekend on a bar?
Yeah,
a measure.
Of course, yeah.
I could see that.
It's one of those groups that like Rush, right? It's a 3-piece group that if any of the members left, it's disbanded. You cannot replace any of those members with another human being because it's just that special.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, it's just a very particular chemistry that you can't really toy with, or it's not the same anymore.
Which somehow, at the same level of musicality, something like Snarky Puppy has had how many members?
Yeah. Well, when you have 14 members, I think that's what they tour with, like 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely do some swaps. The drummers especially, right? 3 or 4.
Let's see. Sput.
Larnell.
Larnell.
Oh, Jameson Ross, that's another one.
God.
Jonathan Thomas. I think he might have done some stuff with them. That's 4 already.
And to play, I mean, not exactly the same parts in every show, but very similar in feel and...
Yeah, to reinterpret them and stuff, though, at all.
It's cool.
Yeah. It would be fun to have a gig like that, where you have to play roughly the same parts, but you get a lot of wiggle room. Not all gigs are like that, right? I mean, the more pop-oriented it is, the less you get to do.
Yeah, more exact to what it's been already transcribed to be.
Because by the time you get to Taylor Swift, it is... Your interpretation is not welcome. Like, this is how the song goes, dude. Yeah.
The specific... can't even think of the word, notations to be exactly, because then it's unrecognizable outside of that. Yeah. Well, you're playing the album exactly how it's been played on the radio 2 billion times is how you're playing it, right? Which something about that's not appealing, right? It would be fun, but like, man, those are some rules. That's a lot of rules for an allegedly creative position as a musician, right? It is why going to some shows where the bands are very musically inclined and their performances on a show are not just playing an album, playing the songs. It's mixing the discography of the band into a full set to where it's like 100% noise, no silence, no breaks.
Yeah.
Music throughout the entire performance, which is great.
And different artists seem to be... They have different views of that. Like, I love when Aaron Spears posts some clips from him playing with Ariana Grande because, man, Ariana seems to... be pretty loose with what she allows the band to do. He's got a lot of wiggle room in some of those tracks. Another awesome example, I'm a huge fan of this girl. Her name's Ella May. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, she's so sick. Just like an R&B singer. But she did SNL like, I want to say maybe a year ago. And so I watched just to see the musical performance because I just love her music. And man, she had like a full like gospel band that play and like let them go absolutely crazy, like full 4-bar drum solo breaks, and like it was really cool because when you take a gig you really don't know if that kind of thing is going to be allowed, but it's cool to see people like let their band do their thing. I like that a lot. That's how I would prefer to do it.
We should find that set and then find the drummer and then feature them.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, it was cool. I remember loving it. It was really cool.
I'm going to write that down. Okay, well, that does it for Swap Study Shed.
All right.
That was a very long conversation afterwards. Awesome. Episode 21. All right, so that'll move us on into Accent or Ghost.
Accent or Ghost.
So I watched this TED Talk called The Healing Drummer. Toby Christensen was the speaker in this TED Talk, and he talked about the healing powers of a djembe.
Oh, that specific drum, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
But all he was saying was I felt a healing power, and then the rest of the video, which was 8 minutes in remainder, was just him playing.
Oh, wow.
Not like, and just like constant beat, like house music type tempo, like but playing. And I was like, I don't understand this. So, what do you think about drums and percussion being used as therapy?
As therapy. I like that word therapy a lot better than the word healing because that's a little too abstract for me. Therapy, though, yeah. And I liken this to like a forced meditation. Like playing drums, if you're really playing drums, like you are consumed by the music itself. A good analogy for this would be, what was Bob Marley's quote? Like, when I play music, I feel no pain, that sort of thing. And that you are so consumed by the music itself that you're almost in a forced meditative state where you really, you have this inability to think of other things. And that to me is some sort of like a mental break. Like you get a pause, right? It's one of the reasons that meditation is such a helpful thing to do, is because it's one of the times when you truly get to, for lack of better words, turn your brain off, right? Like not have active thoughts just sort of assaulting your consciousness all the time, which is what it's like to be a human, right? Like your brain is sort of active all the time. So yeah, I mean, I definitely, it's hard to quantify, and it's going to be very personal and different from person to person. But I do think that there are some therapeutic benefits to playing drums, in that you get this, a certain version of a reset, or at least a break or a pause from the homeostasis that your brain is normally in, which is like an active thought. Like things are always sort of moving. The gears are always turning. You make somewhere in the ballpark, what is it, like 10,000 decisions a day? And you know, it's constant, right? So I don't know. There is definitely something very consuming about music that would alleviate some of the, I don't know, the burdens of consciousness itself, I suppose. But it depends on what a person's problem is. Like, what do you need therapy for? You know, like a good example of a therapy that could go either way, like it would help some people and not some others, is equestrian therapy. That's a fascinating one, like horse therapy. Because one of the reasons this works, it's really fascinating. I've been to a few horse farms over the years and learned this. Horses, they have this like weird intuition when it comes to humans, where they will obey a command that you give them, a trained horse will, but only if you say it the right way. If you say it with an attitude, they don't do it. It's very interesting. So it's like how you approach the problem is related to whether or not the problem gets solved. It's not just doing the thing you're supposed to do. It's also like your mindset while you're doing it. And that's one of the reasons that therapy would be beneficial to someone. But if someone else had a different problem, that's a weird therapy for them. It might not have any impact at all, or it might just be an irrelevant exercise for their particular problem. So I wouldn't claim that like drums can help everybody and everyone should be a drummer for the therapeutic and meditative advantages that it might offer. But you could say that about therapy and meditation in of itself. Like if you don't have anything that allows you to escape your consciousness in a healthy way, at least momentarily, then you probably need something like that. So if it wasn't drumming, it would be running. If it wasn't running, it could be, I don't know, spending time with your family. If it wasn't that, it could be any other hobby or passion or thing that again consumes your consciousness to give you a break from consciousness itself. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, drums, it could be therapy, man. It really could for some people. Just it's very personal. It depends on if that does it for you. Does it feel therapeutic? If it does, then it's probably a good therapy, right?
Yep. So accent or ghost?
I'll give it the accent. Not for everybody, but I think as a whole, it's probably a very useful tool. And I would also think kids, it would be more useful. I would think let's just say like a stressed out 8-year-old. Like drums might be all that you need to sort of have that like mental break and to get your mind off of the thing that's bothering you, like in a more simplistic way. I don't know that it would be as impactful for an adult, because you're just dealing with like real shit, you know? Yeah, it might just feel a little novel to an adult. But again, person to person, it depends. I'll give it the accent though. I think conceptually it makes a lot of sense.
Okay. All right, next is matching hardware.
Matching hardware. Like all the brands the same on all your cymbal stands.
Like I got all Tama hardware.
Yeah. I think, I think... Oh God, it's definitely in the area of like, who cares? You're the only one that cares. I played mismatch hardware for a long time, years. Like tons of my videos have mismatched hardware, and I genuinely never thought about it. If I grabbed it's just too.
Yeah, you can suspend it via a string from the ceiling. Nobody will care.
Yeah, well, so I have gotten, I'll say, in my entire career, maybe 5 comments of people that are like, oh, that's a different stand than the other one. And I'm just blown away every time. Like, how do you know that? Like, who looks at the stands when you're watching a video? It's weird. You know, I had a Frankenstein setup of hardware for a very, very long time. And then I actually found that I weirdly liked Mapex hardware.
Yeah.
I just liked their cymbal stands a lot, and they were priced pretty well. And I really don't love Mapex as a brand. It's no knock on them. It's just not my kind of kit. It's not my sound in particular. But I was in love with this particular cymbal stand, and so I bought 1 or 2 of them. And as soon as I did, within a week, people were like, "What did you get a Mapex stand for?" And notice it doesn't match the like Thomas stand that you had. I don't understand that. It's very strange that people would notice. So, yeah, that's one of those things. Like, if you care, then you can go buy all matching hardware, but nobody else does. I sure don't. I don't know anybody that would care about that at all, especially in the touring world. Once you get to that world, it's just like any stand that holds a cymbal up is acceptable. Like, no, just, yeah, some people are nerdy about that, but not me.
Obviously, if you're like a DW artist and it's all matches and it's cool because you got DW hardware, the drum tech's happy because the drum tech's like, well, it all, goes with the, all the adapters fit, and it's not that much, it's not hard to work with, but it holds up cymbals. Like, it just, or, toms, but.
One thing DW had years ago, they never really fully released it. I feel like Thomas Lang had it, and they were sort of promoting it, but it never actually came to market, I don't think.
I know what you're going to talk about.
It was the air piston.
The DW, like, air control.
Something like that. I remember seeing, like, a marketing thing for it, but I don't think it ever hit the market. And I would assume because they got to be several $100s per stand, but it was like an air piston where you press a button and it bzzz, like a high-end throne, right, where it's actually got, like, hydraulics in it. And you could set, I imagine, you would be able to set the predetermined height of each cymbal stand, and then you put the stand on the ground, press a button, and it like bzz, 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 like elevates itself to the correct height, which is pretty sick. I guess the problem would be like, who's gonna buy that? Like, you have to have a ton of money and gig often, right? Because you don't really need that if you're at home. So studio players might not want that. It's an interesting product, but I always thought that was very interesting if they could get the cost low enough to actually distribute it. You looking it up?
Technically, Sweetwater has the DWC P9300AL 9000 series airlift snare stand.
What is that name? What the hell is that?
That's the DW and then whatever the serial code is for the model number or whatever. $219.
That's not insane.
The Rolls-Royce of snare drum stands.
It's
the
a snare stand.
DW9300AL airlift snare stand is designed with double pedal setups in mind. The offset basket allows optimal snare positioning while remaining balanced, but that's just the beginning of the 9300AL stand's story. That just rolls off the tongue. There's a pneumatic shock that allows your snare drum to float on a cushion of air for quick, effortless, and exact adjustments every time.
Okay. Yeah, snare would need more adjustment than a lot of other stands. But still, that's interesting. $219. Yeah, I mean, that's high for a snare basket. Pretty high. But still, I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
What was that model number one more time?
Well, now I'm on a different one. The DWC P9399AL 9000.
Got it.
Put that in your notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely insane. Just the hardware can get so specific for specific needs, and it's like it just needs to hold stuff up, really. Yeah,
it really does. Hold stuff up and not fall over. That's the only advantage of upgrading hardware, is that it's more sturdy, double braced legs, a little bit thicker. But when you
get into the high end, it's like hyper adjustability, and you're just like, oh, because you can do like a half a degree adjustment.
Yeah, I can move it by an extra millimeter.
But I don't care. You typically get away with like a 10 millimeter tolerance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So that does it for Accent or Ghost. Sorry, were we going to Accent or Ghost matching hardware?
I think we're going to ghost it. Who cares? Yeah, not a big deal. Just not a big deal at all.
All right, an Accent and a Ghost on Accent or Ghost. That'll do it. For that, we'll move us on to Sleeper Spotlight.
This was a good one last week. I really liked last week.
Yeah. I had a lot of Carlos and
Lisa.
Yeah. Lisa.
Yeah, they were awesome.
Both badasses. It was cool.
Yeah, man.
So in this segment, if you don't know, we introduce a drummer that y'all are sleeping on. And we get Adam's opinions, impressions, and constructive criticism, if there's any at all, which usually there isn't. Too many negative criticisms, but
because you pick shredders is what happens.
Yeah. All right, so first up is Hernan Comas.
Hernan. All right. it. Ooh, tricky, man. Man, I don't know what that modulation was.
That was cool.
That was definitely very, very tricky for sure. I like his setup as a whole for sure. Very studio oriented, obviously, with the full recording rig right next to his kit, and a lot of metal influence. It's funny, you can tell when people had a long metal phase, even if that's not what they play. You can see it all left over, like in his playing in a way. Very like, what's the way to say it? I don't know, like machine-ish, right? Like you can just hear the matchiness of the stroke volume a lot of times.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's hard to say exactly what that metal influence is, but you can see it in his playing for sure. Really clean, man, for sure. I thought that the one piece of criticism, I'll say the toms were very boomy. And one of the reasons you might not want super boomy toms in metal is because you play so fast down the toms that it can get a little bit hard to distinguish some of the notes. But that could be fixed in mixing. It could be a matter of bumping like 5K on the EQ on your toms. It's a good little trick to just get a little bit more snap out of the toms. Or scoop the low end at 200 or 500, kind of scoop that down a little. But overall, the kit still sounded good. It sounded absolutely massive, but a little like arena rock was sort of the kit vibe that I got. But that was great, man. Real clean, real fast. That was awesome.
Yeah, his Instagram's full of metal covers. So
he does play a lot of metal?
Yeah, if you want to watch some metal covers, this guy kills it. He's great.
What kind of music does he normally cover?
I think like Judas Priest was on there. Definitely. Oh God, I can't even. Iron Maiden was on there as well.
Maiden, gotcha.
Yeah.
So he's in like some classic metal.
Yeah, real classic metal. So the guy's got great taste, I have to say.
Awesome.
But
all right,
yeah, we got another one from Hernan.
Let's do another one from Hernan. Here we go. Ooh, Sonar Pro Light. Man, that kit sounded way better. I like that kit a lot. That's a Sonar Pro Light. That is a very expensive kit.
Yes, it is.
The finish on that is exactly the same as the one I played at Drumless. They have that kit.
It's a common one, yeah.
Yeah, it's I
finish.
want to say Nussenbaum. It's got a weird like German name for the color. But yeah, that exact kit I imagine in the same dimensions because Pro Lights are not customizable. I think it's still a production line kit. But yeah, I've played that exact same kit before at Drumless. It's the Sonar they have there. And man, does that thing sound good. It is just such a high-end kit. I want to say $7,000. $6,000 or $7,000 is what that thing costs.
I'm gonna look it up now.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I don't know that they still make the Pro Light. They might. I'm really not sure.
It's on their website. Pro Light.
All right. Yeah, it's an awesome kit, man. It sounds absolutely amazing. Good studio kit for sure. So I love that kit sound. That was cool.
You are right. It is the Nussbaum.
Nussbaum. Yeah, it's beautiful, man. Almost like a cherry kind of wood. Really pretty. I thought the playing was good, man. Definitely a good mix of like the fast, powerful single strokes that you would find from a metal player, but also a lot of more, I don't want to say modern ideas, but like 30-second note 5-stroke rolls on the hats in a halftime groove, like that sort of thing, like a touch more fusion-y. Good player, man. Really, really good player. I think I would like to hear him not with these cymbals because these are the loudest cymbals on the planet. They're
Paistis.
Paisty Rudes, man. Yeah. They're so unbelievably heavy. Yeah. So I would love to hear some more. I mean, selfishly, I would say Meinl, like something a little bit more like
refined and mature.
I don't want to use the word like tasteful offensively to say that like this was not tasteful. It's just a very specific kind of sound, and that sound is like loud. Like that's what they're good at, right? It's a ton of metal.
I've never had a good experience listening to Paisty cymbals, Paisty Rudes.
Well, the Rude specifically, Paisty makes some amazing cymbals.
The 2002 big old 24-inch ride. That thing is beautiful.
That and the Signature Sound Edge. What is it called? Signature something.
I could find it.
It's like their Constantinople or their Foundry Reserve. Like they've got the highest end. Yeah, what's the highest end Paisty? I had a set of hats years ago, and dude, they were nice, really, really nice, very boutiquey. You know,
Signature Classic.
Signature, it wasn't what I had, but Signature is definitely the highest end, top of the line.
I think it's 2002s.
I don't know. I don't know enough to say if that's wrong or right, but whatever I had didn't have 2002 on it. It looked like a Constantinople or a Foundry Reserve, like hand-hammered.
Look, I don't see.
I don't know. It's just not a company I keep up with at all.
Yeah, if anybody knows, shoot
Yeah.
a comment down below.
Interesting.
But
Well, either
anyway.
way, this guy was awesome. I love that kit, dude. That kit sounds fantastic. It should for the money. So, actually, I'm curious. eBay search Sonar Pro Light just to see what do they run used. I'm guessing like 4,500 used.
All right.
That's my guess.
May need to check like reverb or something. What did you say? Used?
I'm guessing 4,500 for a used Sonar Pro Light.
3,200 was the first one that came up.
32.
3,400, 4,200.
Okay.
Per light stage, chocolate burl, small sizes.
Huh.
8x10, 9x12, 14x14, 18x20. 18x20 bass drum.
Man, expensive kit.
Yeah.
Very expensive kit.
Yeah, $4,000. Yeah, up at the top end, they're about 4,200.
About 4. Wow, and that's for used, man. That is insane. Yeah, so like 6, 7 new, that would make sense.
I don't know, man. At that rate, that's just too much.
It's a lot of money.
Just don't spend that much money.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Instead of a Mercedes, buy a Camry.
Yeah,
Like,
it'll get you where you need to go.
it's
That's
a
for
lot
sure.
better to take care of and a lot cheaper. Like, the insurance is better. Now we're just talking about cars.
Yeah, exactly. Back to cars.
But,
So what's his Instagram so everybody knows?
so it's at Hernan Comas.
Okay.
He has 2,500 followers. He's from Paraguay.
Paraguay.
So go give Hernan a follow. He deserves your follow. He
Yeah, man.
is a badass. He's great.
Yeah, that was sick. All right, who we got next?
Next up is, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, but I'm just reading the at on Instagram, at Deny_Palaka.
Okay.
Has 1,300 followers from Istanbul.
Okay. Let's do first video from Deny.
All right.
That's a low hat. Tricky. Interesting. I don't know what exactly happened in a lot of those modulations.
Yeah.
Whole bunch of strange movements for sure. So that was very cool. Definitely tricky stuff to study. That's for sure. So I noticed two things, two like constructive criticisms here, and I have been guilty of both of these things before. It's why it's easier for me to see them. So the first one is shoulders and neck. And I remember Benny Greb actually had this criticism of me when I had a lesson with him, or at least one of the conversations that we had. He was like, I can see in your jaw and your neck is where you hold a lot of tension, right? And in certain moments of the music, not the entire time, I would either bite my teeth or do a little neck flex sort of thing, or shrug my shoulders a little bit. And he was like, you need to let all of that go, because while certain muscles do need to be tense and active, it's not those. And so I saw a little bit of the shrugginess sort of happening. So the way to fix this is really, it's as simple as just take a breath, let all of that go, and just remind yourself to do that every 30 seconds, right? Until you eventually sort of let go of some of that tension that you might hold in your body. So that was one very small thing that I saw, not a big deal. And the other one, another thing I've been very guilty of, is controlling the rebound of the snare stroke with your left hand a little bit too much. So by that, I mean, when you're not like choking the stick, holding it down against the snare head necessarily, because I never really did that. It was more so I don't let it come back up. And the irony of playing drums, this weird fact about rhythm, whenever you're playing rhythm or playing drums, you are always going to hit the stick again. After every stroke, guess what's coming next? It's another stroke. It's always another stroke, right? So it's when you allow that stick to come down, you want to behave in your physical body as though you're planning for the next one. So it's not like tap and then hold it there. Like, we're doing another stroke, right? We definitely are. So you really want to let that flow back up a little bit more. So she's doing a good job of controlling the rebound and not just burying the stick, or conversely, letting the stick fly around aimlessly. So she's controlling it, but I would say just a little bit more of like, let it come back to a little bit more of a natural position instead of still slightly pointed down. But with all of that said, the technical difficulty of what she played here was pretty high. Like, I felt like I wasn't counting, but like, were there quintuplets at a certain point? It felt like a very odd subdivision. I don't know.
It would take someone more familiar with odd time signatures or
odd subdivisions
to point it out.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, that was awesome. I want to see another one from her. That was great.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do next one from
Deny.
Deny. Man, I like the wrist technique in this one a lot. Really clean wrists for sure. Great control over the stick. It feels like, I don't know, you can just tell the people who have put more time into their technique than others. And I think her technique looks fantastic here. It felt a touch fast, just a touch, but it also felt like in the proper practice window, where it's like, that's about exactly how it should sound when you're like just stretching that top end of the speed that you can get out of it while it's still played clean and correctly. But I really love the technique here. I thought that sounded fantastic. And was it Weckel? Yeah, that inverted double stroke thing, I think, came from him, though it's permeated the drum industry well now. Virtually everybody plays those inverted doubles. But that was really, really clean, man. Awesome player. Very, very solid drummer, man. It was great.
Yeah. All right. Well, shout out to both Hernan and Deny on today's segment of Sleeper Spotlight.
How many followers does she have?
1,300.
1,300. All right.
Get her up there, man.
Let's get her up. 27,000 by tonight.
27K. Or we'll riot or something. I don't know.
Exactly. We're canceling the pod.
All right, cool. That'll do it for Sleeper Spotlight. If you guys have suggestions of sleepers that you'd like to see, please send them my way to chris@orlandodrummer.com.
And reminder, you cannot nominate yourself, because that's not how this works.
Yeah.
And you can't have your girlfriend nominate you. We had that happen a couple times.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I know your boyfriend asked you to send this email.
In the email, it would say, like, my buddy told me to email you guys.
Yeah, there was one that was just like that. And I'm like, come on, you're not like hacking this as a self-promo thing. Really, that's not what we're doing.
Do you really think that this guy is good?
Well, also, like, how cool is it to surprise your friend? Like, don't do it on their behalf. Like, don't.
Right. You're not saying that, like, this is NBC and we're featuring you on, like, worldwide news or something like that.
Yeah. We're not selling these promo spots. Yeah. It's not like that. Like, so surprise your buddy. Don't tell him, That's a way cooler way to do this. We try to vet those a little bit to make sure nobody's, I don't know, like, selfishly trying to use it as a self-promo tool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately, too, like, this was to bring other drummers up. Like, this is a good, not cross-promotional tool, but I don't pick drummers I hate. Like, I don't pick drummers that
we like all of them,
seem like, I don't know, gimmicky or whatever. Like, no, we want to pick people that are promising and at least deserve a little bit of your attention. It's the whole point of it.
And I've seen a handful of drummers, a couple of the people we featured, guys have messaged them and say, hey, I don't know this guy, but I just love his playing, and I've watched him for a few months, and I can't believe,
the greatest.
And like, that's so fucking pure. That's exactly what we want, right? Like, people that just, I don't know, the fan base here, the listeners here would genuinely just enjoy listening to. Those are the kind of people we want. And it's hard to find them sometimes. It really is. So, yeah, if you're listening and you do know of some drummer that you like that maybe a lot of other people don't, surprise them and send us their info, man. We love featuring these people.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And then speaking of interaction with the fans, we got Q&A coming up.
Q&A, all right.
So, there's questions and answers, right? They come from Instagram, they come from YouTube, they come from the forums of Orlando Drummer. Send your questions straight to me at chris@orlandodrummer.com, and I'll feature them on the podcast to ask Adam so we can get his insight on whatever you're thinking. Anything. Seriously, nothing's off the table.
Oh, yeah?
So first question from Rupa Puma
asks,
I'm about to start teaching locally. Any tips to get me started?
Locally, yes. Plenty of tips for you, for sure. When I first started teaching drum lessons, it was all that I did. It was my full-time job for many, many years before I went online at all. And I started making some online lessons really in order to, I guess, increase the value of my in-person lesson. So if somebody was studying with me in person, I would be able to say, hey, when you go home, this lesson that we did today or this week, here's a video of that same lesson so you can sort of recap that lesson when you get home. And so that was one very early on thing that I figured out that I think was helpful, is that creating video lessons for your in-person students does add a tremendous value to your lesson. So I would recommend doing that for sure. Not necessarily, I'm not telling you to go down the road of having an online career necessarily. If you don't want to do that and you really enjoy in-person lessons, still an awesome thing to do. But having videos to sort of supplement some of those lessons, or at least, just add to the lesson, that was really, really helpful for me. And I noticed my students really liked that as well. It was something they had never seen before. So that was really cool. Beyond that, Craigslist and Facebook marketing ads, those are really big. Not even paid ads necessarily, but 10 or 12 years ago, Craigslist was a lot different than it was now. Yeah. But I got most of my students from Craigslist. That was a big one, posting ads daily. Also, investing in a website is a really, really big one. So, and you can build it on Squarespace or on Wix or on any one of those do-it-yourself website builders. Those are totally fine. What you need is like a 5-page website that has a few videos of your playing. It has a few student testimonials. It has a bio so people can, or parents especially, can learn a little bit about you. You just need some of the fundamentals up there so people can have that sort of stuff. Social media is another huge one. That's a really big one. But I can tell you where the biggest source of students ever came from, and it was parent referrals. Because a good music teacher, the reputation of a good music teacher, will spread most quickly through parent circles. It happens a lot. My good buddy Joe Hodgen, who has been on both the Orlando Drummer podcast and my other podcast, All In With Adam, he's the loopsmith. He's written all of the loops, virtually all of the loops, on OrlandoDrummer.com. He is a very well-known guitar teacher in Orlando, and he's got a waiting list of students. And one of the things that he did was he hosted a recital every year. He's actually got one coming up in
does he?
Like a week or two.
Oh, good. They're back.
Yeah, they're back in person. Yeah, these are super, super cool. It's like I've helped him film some of these before.
Oh, we should go.
It's really fun, dude. I teared up at the last one. I think we talked about this on.
I didn't get to go. I think before COVID.
Yeah.
We were talking about
you were going to come help film one of them.
We were going to help all work on it together. And I was like, I'm excited. This would be cool,
Dude, it's so fun. Well, he sells tickets. It's like a show. Like, he rents a venue locally, and he hires a band to sit behind the kids, and the band is playing the cover, whatever the kid wants to do. And they're all themed by the decade. So he did 60s, 70s, 80s. I think it's 90s. This one is what he's doing. Cool. And then they do holiday themes, so like a Christmas show. Ooh. And it's a recital, so all the parents and family members can come. They can buy tickets virtually and watch a live stream of it. So it's a pretty technically advanced production. But it's really cool because, the reason it was so emotional for me going is because you see, these kids don't know the difference between, there was 150, 200 people there. So it's a pretty sizable audience for like an 8-year-old. But to them, it might as well have been an arena, because when they go up on stage with a band behind them and a guitar and a spotlight on them, that is a powerful moment. I don't know if you remember that moment, if it ever happened to you. But the first time you perform music to an audience live with other people around you, there's a heaviness to that. It's really cool. And so how he accumulated such a large student roster was by filming these and then and then sending the videos to the parents, who would put them on Facebook, and then they would share them around. And you almost have like this parent jealousy thing that happens where someone's like, how did your kid get,
look how cool my kid is,
and other parents are like, hey, how did you get your kid to play on stage with a band? And they're like, it's my guitar teacher, Joe. And then Joe would get this long list of different people emailing him to want to start lessons. So that was one very cool tactic that he did. There's not one way to do it, to build up a large roster of local students in your area, there's not like one way. It's really a long list or a collection of different things that you should be doing all at once. Online ads, yeah, that's a huge one. Website, that's a big one. Email marketing, if you can collect the emails of people in your area who might be interested in this sort of thing, that's helpful. Volunteering at any type of music program for a local school, whether it's a private or a public school, that's a really big one as well. And of course, networking with other teachers, because there are times when teachers will, let's say, take a gig and have to have someone sub in some of their students. That's a big one too. I'm not a huge fan of teaching at a music shop unless you genuinely don't want to do the work of marketing and finding your own students. If that's not appealing to you, then I understand. Then I'd say, yeah, you can go teach in a music shop for sure. But I loved having the control of sort of finding, scheduling, and working with all of my students independently from a music shop. So that's always been my preference. But yeah, my best advice would be to do everything. Do everything that comes to mind, whether it's, a recital, Facebook ads, Craigslist ads, volunteering at a school, networking with parents at different events like that. Anything and everything is going to be helpful. It's not just one thing. So yeah, hopefully all of that helps, man. It's a great question.
Do everything is the short version of
do everything. Answer. That's kind of been my answer for a few questions. Like just everything.
Oh God.
Yeah. Well, you might think there's a magic trick, and I guess it's my way of saying there is not a magic trick to that.
No, there's
like
no
running
one
a business.
single answer.
Yeah,
that's fair. I don't know. Because otherwise saying do everything is like, oh, it's the weight of the world on your shoulders.
Kind of, sort of. Yeah.
Right, cool. Well, do everything.
Being a solo entrepreneur does feel like that,
You do have to specialize in a lot being a solo entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely.
It requires you to put more attention into things you otherwise thought were unimportant in the past.
So I do have one other point, though. This is one thing that I did that I haven't taught private lessons in a very long time, but I'm thinking back to some things that were helpful. And one thing that I really dislike, I hate when people first get into the teaching world and they try to effectively undercut normal lesson prices. They'll go, 1 hour lessons for $20. Like, I don't like that. I think you should be right on par with what lessons cost. So like $50 an hour is right about where you should start. Maybe 40, depending on the area that you live in and what the local economy might be like. But one thing that I did do was I offered discounted pricing for longer periods of time. So if you sign up for 3 months and you want to cut a check for all 3 months, or at least pay monthly, then I would give them a better deal. And that was something that they couldn't find at Guitar Center or Sam Ash or some other local music store. They didn't have anything like that. So that was definitely helpful. But just be careful, because I'm not telling you to go cut your drum lesson prices in half. Because it's really not that sort of thing. If you feel like you're worth $20 an hour and that's all that you're worth, then I would say don't teach yet. It's a weird world to get into if you have to be half of the cost of everyone else that does this for a living, right? It probably means it's a little soon for you to start teaching. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, value yourself. And if you feel that you are not of that value, do what you can to be of that value to yourself and to other people. And then you can charge what's appropriate for your services.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, building your value would be the answer to that one. If you think,
you go.
Yeah, exactly. If you think you're worth $20 an hour, how do we get it to 40? What can you do to make yourself more valuable? Yeah.
Cool.
I like that.
All right. Well, thank you, Rupa Puma.
Yeah.
Next question from Mattia asks, as a drummer who's never actually gigged before, how do I start getting out there and getting gigs? Which is a very appropriate question as gigs start to happen more prevalently.
Yeah, they are coming back a bit, right?
We're very excited.
Interesting. Well, yeah, okay. So I got most of my gigs, I don't want to say pre-internet, but like early, a little before the internet. So it's an interesting one for me. So the biggest thing with finding any gig is going to be networking. It's that portion of the music industry, that sector of the music industry where it's just networking. That's what it comes down to, right? It's who you know and putting yourself out there, for a lack of better words. So social media definitely has changed that since I was in the gigging world, because I have no idea how many bands have been formed via Instagram DM, but it's probably a lot. So that's a great way to go about that for sure. But I also think like going to shows would be a really big one, especially if the bands that you're going to see are like music for musicians. So good example, Animals as Leaders. Like how many people do you think play music in the audience? Like, it's at least half. It's at least half, right? And you already got the genre thing out of the way, because if you wanted to start a metal band, well, all the people who play metal locally are very likely at that show. At least a ton of them are. So that takes a lot of effort on your part. I mean, you got to go into full extrovert mode to go to a show with the intention of meeting people and starting a band with them. You really got to go out and make that happen. So that's definitely a harder one, but it has the highest likelihood of success, I think, for sure. Another way to do it where bands form a ton are any type of social groups where you might meet up. So like church is really like a hack for that one. That's a big one. Or bars, like anywhere that facilitates like small talk conversations where friend groups kind of merge around. Any of that sort of stuff, that's where you'll make a lot of those connections. But it's much like finding students and building a roster of students. Like there is not one thing that's going to do it. There's not some hack. There's no magic trick. It's really just doing a combination of things. But I would say the best thing you could do for yourself would be to put on your extrovert hat and really, really try to make some friends locally, whether it be at shows or at church or at bars or anywhere where you might meet people your age that have similar interests. And again, the show is the easiest one if you go to a show because you're filtering down to like the musicians, you know? You could go to a bar and meet a bunch of cool people and none of them play music. So I would say being an extrovert at a show is by far the best way to do it. And the other way would be like forums. If you can find an online community, like Drummers of Central Florida might be a Facebook group somewhere. Right?
It could technically be our Facebook group that existed.
I guess it could. Yeah. But
man,
that sort of thing, right? Or also, I'm just like talking out loud here, but like if you know anyone in a band locally, like anyone at all, they know other bands, and other bands often need musicians.
Yeah,
so if you can get in those social circles, that would be helpful, you know?
Yeah. Shout out, by the way, to Music for Musicians based in Orlando, Sunstrife, buddy Kevin's band.
All right. You told about Kevin, yeah.
Yeah. Go to shows with him, and everybody's a musician there. You meet people.
Yeah.
You know, a few times it's like, oh, this is Chris. He plays drums as well.
Yeah.
And then people would be like, you drummer? That's cool.
Yeah, that's all it takes sometimes, right?
Right?
Oh, you play drums? Oh, do me get your
Oh,
number. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Like, what kind of stuff? I play guitar. Like, a little bit.
Yeah.
And you get, the people that aren't playing that show that week. They're playing next week or something like that. And of course, you meet people. It's a good thing. Be social, I think, is the short answer to that.
Yeah.
Be social.
As best you can.
Outside the internet.
Yeah.
And inside the internet.
Sure.
I don't know. It all works.
Yeah.
It all works. All right. So that's, is that it? You wanted to touch on anything else?
I think that's it, man. I got a little closing message for y'all today.
Ooh.
So today's actually an interesting day. I didn't know until I woke up. Kelly told me. But today is the 1 year anniversary since I had to put down my dog Snitch. And Snitch was my dog since I got him when I was 18. I just turned 18 and put him down at 31, I think. Or 30-ish. Yeah. Either way, he was 14. I got him when he was about 2 years old. So I had him about 12 years, man. And he was my dog through my entire 20s. I got a lot of other dogs. There was no other dog like Snitch. He was that dog. If you're a dog owner, you know who that dog is. You know, you can get a lot of other dogs, but there's always the one. So Snitch was my one for sure. And it's been 1 year today since we had to let Snitch go. And a couple things. One, I wanted a huge thank you to the drum community because I posted about losing him, a year ago today. And man, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people just showing support, being like, R.I.P. Brother Snitches, and man, it's just so cool to have a community that will do that. Not all communities will do that, but the drum industry does. So first of all, just feeling grateful, remembering back. I went back to that post this morning on Instagram and was like, God damn, that is so cool to just have people that will be that supportive, There's a lot of dog lovers too, right? Which is awesome. You never know how many people are dog lovers until you post about your dog. So that was really cool. But, there was another thing that you and I talked about, because I know you had lost a dog.
I was just about to say, I think your loss of Snitch helped me get through my loss of my dog Rowdy.
We talked about this a lot, and that was sort of my closing messages. One of the things that I remember you and I had a lot of conversations about, one of the things that I learned from that experience of losing a dog that I loved that much was the value of leaning in to the experience and to not pretend that it wasn't happening. You know, I decided when we knew that it was his last few days, I decided that I was going to lean into this experience the best that I could. So this goes all the way from like I am driving him to the vet to have him put down. I'm staring him in the eyes when he actually goes. I'm carrying his body to the car. I'm digging the hole that I'm putting him in. You know, it was I will be fully here and fully present for the difficulty that is this experience, and I'm willing to feel these feelings and to not pretend that this is something else, right? Like a willingness to have the experience no matter what. And man, was that so helpful. And, you know, I feel like this isn't too far of a stretch from some of the things that we go through in artistry, in trying to become a better drummer, any artistic pursuit or artistic craft. You are going to run into emotionally difficult times. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to be annoyed. You're going to be, I don't know, you name the negative neurotic emotion that artistry might evoke. We all know what those kind of feelings are. The frustration that you can't get a gig, that you can't get a student, that you're whatever it is. But a willingness to lean into that feeling and say, that's okay to feel that. It's okay to feel frustrated sometimes. It's okay to be mad sometimes. You know, a willingness to be present and experience what the current feeling is. Man, that in hindsight, a year later, man, that was one of the most helpful things, right? To just let the feeling be what it is. And I think sometimes artists are notorious for getting a little bit cloudy in their you know, navigating the emotional waters of artistry. Sometimes people can get really frustrated and sort of not know where they are. And so, you know, if you needed a reminder for something like this today, I hope this can serve as a good reminder that it's okay to be frustrated, to be mad sometimes. And it's in your best interest. It serves you best to lean into those negative feelings, not to dwell on them necessarily, but to let yourself feel whatever it is that you're feeling. It's an okay thing to do at certain times. So I'm just remembering that today and how helpful that actually was, you know. So yeah, that's my closing message. A little abstract, but you know, it is what it is.
I think it'll translate perfectly.
Yeah.
That's great.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. Happy 21st birthday to us.
Happy 21st birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Woohoo! All right. Drink responsibly, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in.
Appreciate it, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.